Hey, Mr. Muffin, MrMuffin'sTrains, Atlanta, Indiana. Hello, TikTok. We thought we would try doing a broadcast every now and then using some of the latest technology that would let you guys ask questions, and we can respond to those via the broadcast. So this is MrMuffin'sTrains, Atlanta, Indiana. We're calling this Talking Trains with Mr. Muffin. That's what we're calling this. I don't know how often we're going to do it. If this just blows up, we'll never do it again. But we'll give it a try. So we're here. Amy's here helping me. So what's this all about? Okay, so MrMuffin'sTrains is a model train collection and the layout located up here in Atlanta, Indiana. And we also became a retailer, as my wife says, a reluctant retailer, in order to pay for it. So we've been up here about 8 years now. Good sized layout right here behind me, and we run trains for the public on Saturdays, so people come and visit and enjoy model trains. A lot of kids have never seen electric trains before, so that's pretty fun, and we've enjoyed doing that. Can't hear you very well with the music. Well, let's turn the music off. Yeah, we'll calm the music down. Thank you, Jim. Hopefully that's better. I wasn't planning to let that play the whole time. I just forgot to mute it. It's new stuff. So anyway, we have a layout up here and a train collection, and we run the trains on Saturdays for the public. And it was requested that we film some of that. So we started doing a live broadcast at 2 o'clock on Saturdays from the layout, just basically showing the trains running. And then people were like, well, can't you talk and can't you tell us something about this? And so we did a little bit more of that, and that worked out pretty good. And then we kind of upgraded our technology, and so we're fooling around with now really controlling our cameras with a Mac application that we installed, and we discovered as part of that that we can receive comments from people, like Jim just told us, hey, I can't hear you over the music. We turned it off. Thanks, Jim. We're trying to use some of this technology, and in the process of learning how to do that, we found out that we could set it up in such a way that those people that make comments on Facebook or YouTube, we could bring them right into our broadcast. And those of you on TikTok, on this other camera over here, I can't directly broadcast to TikTok, but we can side broadcast. You guys are the sidebar broadcast, and we'll do our best to look at your comments as well. So that's kind of the plan. We wanted to then move the recording and production of the layout on Saturdays into this room in order to get better Wi-Fi signal, and we discovered that we had enough room under part of the layout. I'm actually under the layout on the east side, and we took out some boxes we had here and some inventory and so forth, and put in a desk, and this is lovingly referred to as the Nerd Center, as opposed to Nerve Center. And so we've got our Macs in here and our video control equipment here, so we can basically broadcast from here. And behind me, sneaking up, is
beautiful Mrs.
Mrs. Muffin. See her back there? I'll duck down. Hello. She's waving. She's coming. Yeah. Bit of an echo. So Jim's hearing a bit of an echo. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to fix that echo. So let's see if I can. I think she knocked one of my headsets out. Let me bring the broadcast down. Is that any better on the echo, Leo? Let me know, won't you?
You have 168 people.
So anyway, so what we're doing is I'm sitting under the layout, talking to you today. Mrs. Muffin's here, Amy's here. This is like a whole family thing. They're trying to locate stools. So this is all pretty fun. So the layout here is 60 feet by 40 feet, the main layout, all detailed and decorated by the Muffins. And then we added an east side extension, which is what we're under. That's 100 feet long, goes all the way up to the front of the building. And we've got a couple of loops of track up here on the main layout. We have 13 independent loops of track. And then I'm getting ready to put a 16th loop in with another bridge, may turn into 17. So we can run, my goal is to run 50 trains at the same time. And I can't do that without help. You know, we start having some really bad wrecks at about 22 trades, 23 trades. But sometimes when Brother Bill's down or one of our other friends is over here helping me run trains, we can, you know, increase the number of trains we run. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. We're at the layout. We moved up here. Why are we in Atlanta, Indiana? Well, we're in Atlanta, Indiana because it's cheap. We could buy buildings up here cheaper than we could rent buildings in our home in Carmel, Indiana. It's just south of us. So Liz and I bought 7 acres up here and a house that we refurbished, added to, and then we were going to build a building, and Liz, being much smarter than me, said, you know, we could buy buildings cheaper than we could build buildings. So here we are. So over time, we've bought 3 buildings up here. Basically, the building I'm in is where the layout's located, and we also incorporate models, and we also do all the kit construction for Maritime models. And that's here in this building. And then down the street, we actually have 3 buildings all together to make our retail store. And Liz and Jeff and everybody are busy working on basically redesigning the retail store to make it more consumer friendly, so you can walk in and browse and see the trains and stuff we have on sale. And then we were able to lease a warehouse space just south of us, another 4,000 square feet or so. We took possession of about a month ago, and we're moving all our pick, pack, and ship down there. So, so up here in Atlanta, we've got 20-some thousand square feet dedicated to model railroading and trains, and having a lot of fun with family and friends. So that's kind of where we're at here. What I thought I'd talk a little bit about today is model railroading and building your first layout, if you don't mind. So I started collecting HO trains in 1986, and I went into a hobby shop, and they had some HO RS3s. I happen to have an RS3 right here. This is my favorite diesel. It's got all these round edges, first generation diesel by Alco. It's got a sound set in it, sounds like it's breaking, but I always loved those engines. And that particular hobby shop near Philadelphia had a whole case full of RS3s, and I bought them all and put up a display case in my office there for people to see and see my RS3s, and that kind of got me into model railroading. And so I started collecting HO trains, and I did not have a layout. I'm like many of you, hadn't built a layout yet. I was thinking about it. Though I started working on scenery. I started building buildings, building kits, and building them and detailing them like the corporate models we own today. And for those of you that are thinking about model railroading and want to kind of get busy with your hands, I think building kits is a really good way to get started. And that's what I did in HO. So I did that for quite a while, over 10 years, collecting trains and building kits, and get ready to build my first layout. And as I've gotten older, my eyesight's not as good, and HO sure seemed small. And you know, for me anyway, laying HO track and getting it all square so everything ran perfectly was tough to do. And I just wanted to run the trains, you know. So I decided to get out of the hobby, and then lo and behold, I got into O Guage. So we started collecting O Guage trains in 2000. And we collected a lot of them before we ever built a layout. And we finally built a layout at our home in Carmel, and it was very popular. We opened it to the public, particularly on holidays, and we had some newspaper coverage. Crazy old man has a big model train layout. And eventually, I made the comment to Liz, you know, if we could have this layout in a public place where people could come and see it, that would be better, you know. And so she went out and rented me an 1,800 square foot building in Carmel that became our first train central. And we moved about 10% of my collections there. That's all we could get into that building. And we built a pretty good sized layout and opened it to the public, how many years ago? 10 years ago? 2012. 2012. it was super popular, and people came to see the layout and enjoy it, and that was really wonderful. I said to her, you know, gee, I wish we had more space. We could have a bigger layout. And she, being very clever, managed to get a 4,000 square foot building for us just around the corner that was being renovated with new lighting and air conditioning. It was really pretty cool. And so we moved into that building, and that gave us a much larger layout to share our trains, and we could get most of our collection into that building. And the Lionel Collectors Club of America came there for a national convention. We had TCA chapters visit, and we really liked that. And the city of Carmel was planning to buy that property and tear the building down to make a retaining pond for the other construction they were doing. So our building was going to become a swamp pit. That's when we started working on coming up here. So here we are. So if you're thinking about building a layout, how do you go about doing that? How do you get started? Well, first thing I would do is think about how much space you can dedicate to it. And that's kind of the initial step. And once you've negotiated with the higher powers at your house to how much space you can have for your layout, we got to decide, are you going to build an island layout, where it's going to be basically a central place where you can walk all the way around it? That's an island layout. Or you're going to do what we call an around the wall layout. You're going to basically build your benchwork up against the wall on 2 sides, 3 sides, maybe even 4 sides. And then you can be in the middle of that space. And so you're going to decide if it's an island or if it's around the wall. Now, the advantage of an island layout is you can see everything. You walk around, you can see everything. It's kind of right there. The disadvantage of that is it's kind of hard to reach stuff, but you can get a topside creeper that people use to maintain diesel engines to be able to reach into the layout. And you don't really have any wall space, any background space for scenery and building flats and things like that that you might want to have. And I would suggest in the same space you can get a lot more trains into a round the wall layout versus an island layout. But you can do it either way. And our layout here is really an around the wall layout. We use the walls of this building to hold basically 2x4 stud walls with drywall that are scenic, with clouds and buildings and birds and billboards and stuff like that, and which gives it a lot, when you're taking photographs of it or videos of it, gives you a lot more perspective. So I like round the wall, but I don't have any problem with island if that's what you want to do, build an island in that layout, that's great. So once you got that figured out, the next thing you got to do is figure out how high off the ground you want that. And a lot of people say, wow, you know, I want to do 30 inches, 32 inches, and get it down there. And that's not a good idea, in my opinion, because it's hard to get underneath it in order to work on the wiring and things you need to do underneath it. So we like to build the layout at 42 inches off the floor, maybe 46 inches off the floor. So it's high enough that you can sit on a chair with rollers and roll around under there to do your wiring and stuff. So 42, 44, 46 inches off the floor is a good height to build the layout, right? So now we kind of got the height figured out. So what about a track plan? Well, the hard thing about building the layout is you got to sort out where you're going to turn the trains around. You need enough room to put a curve in there to turn the train around. Maybe it's a whole 180 degrees, maybe it's part of a 180 degree curve, and then you're going to go a little ways and finish turning it around, something like that. But you're going to have to turn the train around, right? And in today's world, in O gauge, right, we need really 75 inches to turn a train all the way around using a pretty good sized track that'll run any kind of steam engine or anything. We call that track O72. And what that means is 72 inches from the center rail to the center rail, and which takes about 75 inches to manage. Now, you can certainly do it tighter than that. You can have tighter curves than that. It'll just limit a little bit the size of the trains you can run, the size of the engines you can run. But even a space that's 5 foot by 9 foot has got enough room to turn the trains around. So we're gonna figure out, based on the space you have, where are we going to turn the trains around? Are we gonna do a folded dog bone? Or what kind of big U shape? Or what kind of shape are we gonna do that'll allow us to turn the trains around? And once you figure that out, where all the curves go, then you can just start connecting the curves together with straights, and pretty soon you got a track plan for a layout, right? That's pretty cool. Okay. So any questions about that? He asked politely. We got 18 people watching us, according to my broadcast software,
And 23
and
on
23
TikTok.
on TikTok. So that's good. All right. So then once we've got that kind of sorted out, the track plan sorted out, we can start to build it. And what I like to do philosophically is build the first level first and get the first level, maybe a multi-track main line, 2 tracks or 3 tracks, get that all working, getting it all working and level in order to, before I start to add anything else on it. So what's a folded dog bone, says Lee French. Well, you know, let's ask, what's a folded dog bone? Well, if you draw a dog bone, so you got a big turnaround on both ends, and you got long straights together, if you take that dog bone and you bend it, so you've got the big ends of the dog bone maybe at the bottom of a U or in an L shape, something like that, you've basically folded the dog bone. I'm sure that's really clear. We happen to have a dog here right now. We could ask him, is security is in the house?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I got a pad down there. I don't know if I could draw. I could draw. You want me to draw a dog bone?
Sure.
Liz says we can draw a dog bone. Okay, so what a great idea. There is a dog bone. I'm sure that's incredibly helpful.
Here, show TikTok too so they can see.
Yeah, this is a dog bone, you guys. And what you could do is fold it. And what would that look like? What would a folded dog bone look like? I know we're helping Lee here, but maybe we could fold it like that, fold it in the middle. Maybe we could fold it like that. Right? That's a folded dog bone. Or you could fold it more. I've got more paper. Why not? We could fold it more to make this kind of U shape. There he goes. Make sense? Okay, that's a folded dog bone. Hey, Don, how are you? Thanks for joining. Don says hello from Kentucky. I'll put him up there. There we go. Don, hey, Don, thank you for joining us, buddy. Appreciate it. This technology works pretty good. If I could get rid of the echo. I'm working on it. I have to turn a different filter on, I think. Okay, well anyway, folded dog bone. Where were we? We were talking about track plans, right? So we're going to build the first level first. That's why they call it the first level, because we're going to build it first. And what I like to do is to do a 2 or 3 track main line on the first level. So I've got trains running in opposite directions, because they look cool when they're running towards each other. And you could even do a 4-track main line if you wanted to. And I like to do that with really big curves and just really simple. And get that all running.
Tell them how you step down the curve.
Do what?
Step down the curve.
Oh yeah, you got to step down. Yeah, they're not all the 72s. Oh, no. Thank you very much. Yeah, so let's say the outside curve is an O72, which means 6 feet across, right? 72 inches. The next curve inside could be an O63, so it's going to be 4.5 inches away, center to center. Inside of that would be 54, right? And so forth. 45, 36. Yeah, you can step them all down, right? How much space between the tracks do you need, says Lee French? Well, what you'd normally do is use 4.5 inches center rail to center rail. And so if you think about the curves, right? So let's say I've got a 063 curve on the outside and 054 inside of it. That's 9 inches, right? Half of that's 4.5. So it's going to be 4.5 inches between the 063 curve, center rail, and the 054 curve, center rail. And that way they stay perfectly parallel as they run through the track, right? Okay, now, let's see. We did folded, yep, space between the track, yep.
Mrs. Muffin, let her do the artwork.
Yeah, I got to put that up there.
Genesis.
Dennis wants to know, you better let Mrs. Muffin do the artwork. I think you're right. From now on, all dog bone drawing will be done by Mrs. Muffin. We have now decreed that. That'll always be the case. Okay, good. So we step the curves down, as Mrs. Muffin suggests. She's getting ready to build a new layout in the store that will be in progress. So you'll show the basic layout with just the wood, and then an evolution. That's a good word. That's a long word. But an evolution of the layout from the basic wood, getting the track down, to starting to ballast and apply scenery, and she's going to show the progression, the evolution of the layout build at the new layout. So she's all up to speed on curves because she's got that figured out now.
I'm just
right?
going to pop in here because you've
Yeah.
got people talking. So, first of all, Rabbit Hole Railroad's on. Who does the moderate?
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. He says 4.5 for the switchers.
Is 4.5 room for enough for two big boys to go in opposite directions? The answer to that is no. They have they're articulated engines, right? A big boy. And so they're very long. And when they go into the curve, even an 072 curve, the front of that engine really swings out. And when I run the big boy here, I run it on my middle track on the main level. So I give it plenty of room to swing in and swing out, right? Yeah. So, yeah, Curtis says, yeah, same thing. Yeah, 4.5 is not enough if it's a big boy in an Allegheny. That's true. That's true. So, and how would you make it bigger? Well, what you would do on the outside track is you wouldn't start the curve at the same place. You start the inside track, and then on the outside track, you add a couple of inches of straight track before you go into the curve, which will push the curve farther out, and it won't be 4.5 inches anymore. There'll be more room, and then when you come back around the other side, you'll again have a little more straight on that side, on the outside loop, so that you maintain a greater distance between the 63 in this example and the 72, if that makes sense.
Well, who asked that? He said, thanks. I'm building a new layout, and I'm using 6 on the center.
Yep.
That's Iron Pig.
Yeah, Mr. Pig.
RR.
Yeah. Well, that'll certainly work now, and that's good. You're going to need, in order to keep things kind of parallel, you're going to have to extend some of the straights going into the curve to keep that 6-inch thing working for you. Okay, so where were we? So main level's in, we got it running, 4.5 inch on center, unless you're running big boys and Alleghenies and so forth. You want to go to 6, that's great. So that's fine, all good. The problem's really going to be in the curves. It's not going to be on the straight, right? So if the Allegheny's not going to catch the big boy on the straight, they'll be going straight, so they'll go right past each other. So you could do 4.5 inch on center on the straights if you want, and then expand it into the curves. All right, so we got our main line in, up and running, and everything works. We got the electronics hooked up. We'll talk about that another day. And we're testing it, we're running our trains, everything's great. And you've got like one big scene you're looking at, and that gets kind of boring. And so what we want to do is to start breaking the layout up into like little vignettes, like little stages that the train's running through. And we're going to do that with tunnels. We're going to do that with raised areas. So for example, you could take that layout and take a piece of plywood and put it in the corner to cover up the curved track in the corner. And it's going to be 7 inches up, something like that, 8 inches up. And on that platform, you could build scenery like a town, a coal mine, Mrs. Muffin says, very right. We could also put another track up there. The security patrol just showed up. He's down here. We could put another track up there, maybe a double track, and running through that corner that we laid on top of our first level. And then once we've done that, as it comes off that piece of plywood, we can use bridges to move it, farther into the layout, right? And what I like to do, and you'll see on our layout if you watch on a Saturday, is we have lots of bridges that cross lots of other tracks, because I think the coolest thing is to see another train on a different level crossing over a train running underneath it. I love that view. So now that we've got the main level in, we're going to start working on a second level. And that could be a single track or it could be a double track. And we're going to do that by creating like islands, scenery islands, that could be in the corners or other places. The one up here right above Liz, there's a big train station on a platform over the top of some of the straight tracks. And what that does is breaks up the scene. It's not possible to see everything standing one place. And so you're going to have to move around to see the layout, right? You're going to see lots of different scenes. So that's pretty awesome. So that's our second level, right? So now we got first level running, second level running, and maybe you want to put a third level on there. You could do that, and that third level might all be on bridges. And run through the layout, and like we have a level like that here that's above us, that is basically the whole layout, that whole level is bridges. There's a couple of islands of bench work that support it, but the rest of it's just bridges. And we have a train, we actually have 2 trains up there running on that level.
Can I pause you for 2 seconds? Because
Yeah.
we're getting some questions.
Yeah.
So is it, let's see, Rabbit Hole is first asking about, he has an old MTH Proto 1 Alligan.
Yeah.
Is it worth the money to upgrade it?
Well, so he's got a Proto 1, MTH Proto 1 Alligan, right? And that is a heck of an engine. And, I would probably upgrade that. I mean, it's a significant investment. The motors and everything are good. It's a good product. Smoke unit, it's a good product. So on an Alligan, it'd be worth spending a couple $100 to do an electronics upgrade to get it to PS3, the current version with MTH. So on an Alligan, I'd probably do it. Now, if you've got a diesel, an RS-27 or something like that, that's PS1, I'm not sure it's worth the money to upgrade it. I think I'd try to sell that on eBay and get a new one, but certainly for a big steam engine, it's a good idea, right?
And then there was a question about foam. Do you find it easier, and this might be a good question for Mrs. Muffin.
Yeah,
too.
is it
Do you find
easier
it
to paint the
easier-
green foam or the pink foam? What do you think about, what kind of foam do you like, Lou?
I use the green foam,
She uses green, she says.
and the key is you have to paint it with latex, and then you can use spray paint.
Okay, so
But if you do spray paint first, it will eat your foam.
okay.
It just eats through it, but latex paint does not.
So she's saying, and in case you can't hear her, that what she prefers is to put latex paint over the foam, which in effect seals it, and then you can use the sprays on it. They make like those spatter sprays in earth colors that makes it look like, outside. And those are pretty cool. And so she'll do latex layer over the foam. We've got a lot of foam like that here that she's carved into rocks and so forth. And then we get that spatter spray paint in browns and grays and rusts and stuff like that, and just is that how it sounds? Yeah. Just spray that on the foam, and you get a nice finish on that. And we've done that a lot. Yeah, that's for sure. Yep. So Lee's asking about what kind of track should I use. Oh, Bill Davis, he's on.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, Bill. He says you upgraded yours, right? That's good. Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. That's a good idea. On a big steam like that, why not? I've got a couple here that were upgraded. Lee's asking about track. I'm probably going to save that for another discussion. There's lots of options on track, and that's probably another long broadcast, and where I'd want to show the track. So I'll do that. That's a good question. Obviously, there's quite a bit of track made. It's all standard size, right? So it doesn't matter whose track you use, really. And you just kind of pick one and stay with it, And but let's talk more about track next time we're together. Thank you. All right, we can get that off of there. Okay, good. Anything else over here?
Iron Big.
Oh, he says, I'm wondering about a Yellowstone engine. Do you think MTH is going to come out with a PS3? Well, I am sure pushing hard for them to. They still own all the tooling for the Yellowstone. And also the Western Maryland Allegheny. That's never been done in PS3 either. So it's like almost every call I have with them, I am pounding them on Yellowstones. It'd be beautiful. And also the Western Maryland Challenger, which is different than the Challengers they just released. So I really like to see those. It's really interesting. I mean, back in the old days, MTH produced a catalog twice a year, and there was a lot of activity around it. And I don't know, you might be aware that we're kind of the people that got this whole thing with custom runs started. MTH was making Monon custom runs for us. Bill Davis knows better than anybody. And we got going on custom runs. And so every catalog, we would look at what tooling is being used, and could we use that tooling to make something else for us. Like the 2024 Volume 1 Lionel catalog that just came out, we have 22 custom runs that Lionel's making just for us. So the custom run thing's pretty cool. Well, anyway, in the new world, MTH doesn't produce a catalog anymore, and they announce new product almost every week, maybe every 2 weeks. And so, we're spending a lot of time with them working on what products are going to get made, and, what custom runs do we want to make, and, what are we thinking about? And so it's a lot more complicated than it was back when we had just 2 catalogs a year. So, hey, we had a question over here. Curtis said, what lumber do you use? Well, we use 1x4s and some 1x2s, yeah. And we'll have another whole discussion on bench work, but basically with 1x4s, what we like to do is build what looks kind of like a ladder. It's 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and we have 5 cross pieces in the middle, 1 on each end and 3 in the middle, right, every 2 feet. And we build that frame, if you will. That becomes the frame that goes under the layout. Like right now, above my head are those kind of wood frames that's holding the layout up. And then we mount that on 2x4s. You don't need 4x4s. 2x4s is fine. And if you get your first 4x8 frame with 2x4s, you get it in there in the layout. And if it's up against the wall, maybe anchor it to the wall, right? And then you can start just adding additional sections to that and dropping 2 more legs, and just kind of keep going, right? And the layout in Carmel, the big layout in Carmel, we borrowed a friend of ours and 2 baseball players from Carmel High School, and the 4 of us, with snacks from Liz, built that whole benchwork for that entire layout in one day. That was pretty cool. So we use 1x4s, pine 1x4s. It's the principal piece, and then some 1x2s you can use for bracing and stuff. Then what about the top of the layout? You're going to ask me that next, I have a feeling. Yeah, like a modular unit. Yep, exactly. So what do we do for the top? Well, you got a lot of choices. You can use MDF, which is multi-density fiberboard, right? It's basically sawdust and glue. And the bad news about that, it's heavy. So you'd probably want to cut it into 4x4 sections, make it easier to carry. The good news with it is it's really, really smooth. It's level, it's perfect, takes paint. That's the nice thing about MDF. You could use plywood. You want to use at least 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8. You could even use 3/4 if you want. And you obviously want to use it where it's really smooth on one side, whatever that's called, AB, sanded. Is there a name for that, Lou?
Cabinet grade, basically.
Cabinet grade. Yeah, we're learning some good stuff here today. Cabinet grade plywood. And we've used, we did the birch stuff too, right?
Yeah, we've done birch.
Yeah, we've done birch sheets, 4x8 sheets in birch. And that's pretty. And it takes paint really, really well. And then what we do, so we build these 4x8 ladders we talked about. And we've screwed them together on 2x4s, and now we put a top on it. And of course, when you put the top on it, it makes it really heavy and really stable. And then we paint the whole thing one color as a background color. And the color we use, and those of you taking notes, write this down, the color we use is Tender Twig, Twig. Not named after Twiggy. No, it's a color. Tender Twig. Valspar from Lowe's, she says. She knows all this. Birch is cheaper? Curtis says birch is cheaper. That's good.
Yeah, go with that.
Yeah, go with birch. Yeah, he says birch is cheaper. Oh my God, that is hard to believe. Let's do that. All right. So Tim jumped on and said, "Hey, keep the Lackawanna custom runs coming." You bet I will, buddy. Yeah, we love doing Lackawanna for sure. Vision Line Allegheny. Hey, Matt's asking about that. Yeah, I'm with you. I thought we'd see that last year, honestly, from the conversation, and then they brought out a big boy, and I was like, what? What do we need another big boy for? What we need is a Vision Line Allegheny. And I thought we'd never sell a big boy, and my God, we sold a ton of them. I mean, there were a lot of people that didn't have them, and they wanted the Vision Line one, and we got it. And then we had our custom run big boy, road number 4000, which is kind of a funny story, because the Union Pacific Historical Society did not like the 4000 that Lionel announced, and they wanted it changed. And so Lionel said, well, then call Mr. Muffin. Like, really? Why are you calling me? I don't know anything about Union Pacific. The Monon didn't run a big boy. You may not know that. We didn't have one here in Indiana. But we were able to work out with Lionel to make a second 4000 to the specifications the UP Historical Society wanted. And that was a big hit. So why am I talking about that? I have no idea. But anyway, we definitely need a Vision Line Allegheny. I am with you 100%. And I'm going to work hard as your senator. No, I'm going to work hard
to, Mr. Muffin.
Yeah, to see if I could get that Allegheny made. But that would be beautiful. And I would keep one for sure. And I don't know how many road numbers. We'd have to do a few.
I think you opened up a door here. So rabbit hole, yeah. MTH about something being released. Can you see that?
Well, probably the WTIU. I bet he's asking about. So it's in production now. They finally solved. They were having a feedback problem, kind of like the echo you're hearing, and it was affecting the control of the engines. And they ended up hiring. I guess I can tell this story. A couple of MIT engineers got involved to help them fix this feedback problem. And that's what's been delaying them. And last I chatted, that was all resolved and it's in production. So we're just, hoping to get those finished and get them here. I'm thinking, July, August. And then Lionel's saying the base 3, their new control system with the app that you can run on a phone or a tablet is what I'll probably do on an iPad. We should see that this summer. So, and that's in production too right now. And we had a couple calls today. You can use the base 3 with a handheld remote. So if you have a Cab 1L or you buy a Cab 1L, they're still made, that will connect to the base 3. So will your Cab 2 if you've already got Legacy. Your Cab 2 remote will connect to the base 3 as well. So if you still want to run your train using a handheld remote, just get a Cab 1L, and it'll work fine with the base 3. So looking forward to that. Okay, what? Oh yeah, I love doing the Metras. Bill Davis is talking about doing the Metras. He's got a great Metra collection. And we're doing a couple custom runs in Metra. They would not, Metra controls that trademark pretty tight, and they don't let you just make whatever you want. So that's interesting to try to work that out. But yeah, I'd like to do more of that, of the Metras for sure. I think we're doing some passenger cars Atlas is doing for us in Metra. I think we are, if I remember right. What else? Math says now only can make a C&O K2 or K3 mic. Yeah, that would be good. That'd be, we get the right tooling, get that made. Things are, the hobby itself, you probably know, is really growing, and it's not, drying up. And we have a lot of younger guys coming in. We have a lot of father-son teams building layouts, grandson teams building layouts. There's a lot of guys that, just retired, and now they're finally going to make build a layout. They've been collecting trains, and here we go. So, and that gives us a lot of confidence to kind of push on new tooling, right? And so I think we'll see some things we haven't seen before. I think we'll see some announcements yet this year. So that's pretty cool. Okay, good. So what did we do? Where are we going now? Anybody else got a question on here?
I think that's good to open it up for some questions.
Yeah,
We
let's
had a bunch
do.
of people
Any other questions I can
wanna
answer?
come up with anything, and
We got 19 people joining us on Facebook and another 20 roughly on TikTok. So that's pretty cool. I don't know what's going on YouTube. I don't have YouTube up. So
Rabbit Hole asks, what's a cheap way to build structures?
what's that?
What's a cheap way to build structures?
Just, I know the wood is a lot more expensive than it used to be. We bought some 1x4s today that were probably twice what they were 2 years ago. So,
Kind of structures.
yeah. You're talking about structures, you're talking about bench work or models, buildings? Yeah. Well, if you're talking about like scenery, like building structures, we've done a lot by just taking a piece of wood, 1x8 or something like that, and you can get a plastic brick. Several companies make that, Plastistruct and K&E, there's several. And you can attach that brick to the wood. And then what I do is use screen batting to make like a pilaster. So, and maybe put another piece of screen batting on the top. So you can end up with a long piece of wood that's got brick sections in it, like you might see in Philadelphia, for example, with pilasters made out of screen batting. And obviously you're going to paint all that. So you're going to paint all the wood, and then you're going to paint the brick, put the brick in there, and then that gives you a really nice background. I've got some here on the layout that are 6 feet long, and it's a pretty inexpensive way to do that, to build that. And then above that, you can put flats. They could be kits that you take apart and use the walls as flats, or they could be, you could make the buildings out of, even cardboard, right? And industrial-looking buildings, and put them above that big section we just talked about making, and then give you some dimension. We always paint the back blue, sky blue, and then Liz climbs up there with a spray can and paints clouds, And I think on my website I have a picture of, I told her no clouds, and she ignored me and got up on the layout and spray painted clouds everywhere, and they look great. So, a lot smarter than me. What happens if a train stops working? Well, it depends on what the problem is. It could be electronics. First thing, it could be dirty. When the trains run on the track, the dust and stuff that's on the track and the electrical activity going on creates like a black film, and that film gets on your wheels as well as on the track. And we use denatured alcohol we buy at Lowe's on a rag to clean the track, or I've got track cleaning cars. And on the engines themselves, you can use denatured alcohol or even lacquer thinner on a Q-tip and just rub the wheels to get all that stuff off there, clean it up, and it'll work better. And if I'm running an engine here every Saturday for 4 or 5 weeks, it'll get pretty dirty, and it'll need to be cleaned and cleaned up a little bit. So if it stops running, it could be that. It could be a mechanical issue. Could be an electronic issue. I mean, there's lots of different steps. We'll have to have another call and talk about maintaining engines and doing that to kind of work on those kind of problems, right? So, what else? Let's see. Any other questions? Oh my gosh. Good. Love you doing the Metras. Thanks, Bill. Hobby is growing. Yeah. Bill says not so many clubs. Will you cover control systems in a future broadcast? Yeah, we're going to talk about the various control systems that you can use to run your trains. I promise I'll do that. What's Curtis saying? Is that
the magic wood in the background that was talked about on his shelf on Wednesday?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
When you purchased your last building, LOL.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, behind Liz, we do, and she and I were doing it today, is the shelves, like where Liz is sitting, those are made out of 1x4s, and we groove them on a table saw so that the trains, when they're on there, the wheels fit in the grooves. And that they look better than the wheels aren't all wobbled. And she's bringing a larger one up here. Looks like, is that a 1x8?
Yep.
And this one, you can see the grooves in there. She's got to show you. Here you go. I don't know which way I'm going. I've got the mirror thing going. I'm backwards. I move forward? Okay. You can see, oh, here it is. You can see we grooved this pine so the wheels will fit in there. And when I built the shelving on this layout here, it's all made out of 1x4s. And one day my wife said to me, if you used a wider piece of wood, you can get more than one train in a spot. And it's like, boy, where was that idea? Several thousand feet ago. So now we build them 2-track wide, 3-track wide, even 4-track wide. The passenger cars over here on the wall are 5-track deep, so that you can put an entire set of cars in one position, right? One in back of the other. So you see the chassis observation car on the outside, and then inside is 4 more chassis cars. Curtis says don't use you don't want to use, thinner or denatured alcohol in the traction tires. Yeah, they'll mess them up. So don't worry about cleaning that. Dennis wants to know, let's see, do we have accommodations near us? Yeah, you are welcome to park your tent in front here anytime. No, we are near Westfield, Indiana, just down Highway 31. And there's quite a few hotels, motels and stuff in Westfield. And that's like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Everything is 20 minutes. That's a thing in my family is everybody asks me, well, how long does it take to do that? 20 minutes. Even my grandkids know everything takes 20 minutes. So it'd probably be less than 20 minutes to get down to Westfield. So yeah, come and visit. That'd be great. All right, what else has got? Oh, here we go. Oh gosh, yeah, the coal tower. We do a chat with the Muffins video broadcast Zoom on Wednesday nights at 7 Eastern. And if you would like to attend that and you haven't, you can just go to our website, MrMuffin'sTrains, type in the word chat, and it comes up. And you basically buy a free product that sends you directions on how to log in. And on the Wednesday calls, Harry Heike, master model railroad artist, which, by the way, he designed a lot of the Lionel scenery products when he worked for Lionel. He is on the program with us and shows us kind of what he's working on in his workshop. And then we have a good friend in Nashville, Tennessee, Dr. Jack, who's a retired surgeon, and he's got a beautiful layout representing Nashville, basically. I'm sorry, Milwaukee Road. That's his favorite. Yeah, and he's on too, showing us kind of what stuff he's working on. And then if they leave me any time, I try to show some new trains, or we show some scenery things Liz and I are doing, or something like that. So it's an hour broadcast on Wednesday nights. And so on the broadcast, Randolph's asking about, Harry Heike right now is detailing a Golden Gate Depot coaling tower, correcting the steps and doing a lot of details to it. And he's doing it for the Schellingers from New York, for their layout is what he's doing. And those aren't made anymore. The Golden Gate Depot still has the tooling for it. I will ask him about that, because maybe we could make those again. But they show up on eBay, maybe not every week, but every couple of weeks there's one on there. There was one on there a couple of days ago. So it's Golden Gate Depot coaling tower, if you search for that on eBay. I've got 2 or 3 here on the layout, though I've not detailed mine anywhere near what Harry's done. I feel bad. Mine looks, ugh, compared to those. And you ought to be able to buy one on eBay for a couple $100. So they're pretty cool. All right, anything else going on? Let's see. Benjamin's, yeah. So MTH is doing the CSX Heritage Units in Rail King, which is slightly smaller, right? And so they announced the first 2 yesterday, I think, or Tuesday. And I'm trying to talk to them about that to see what their plan is to do the rest. So I don't have an answer to that. I've talked to both. Atlas owns the ES44 tooling that MTH made, and they're planning to do all the CSX Heritage Units Atlas. And I think, my guess, I don't know anything for a fact, is in the April announcements Atlas puts out, we'll see the first of those. That'd be my bet. And then Lionel's going to do them all as well. And they announced the first 3, I think, in the 2024 Volume 1 catalog. Just they're beautiful engines. So, I mean, obviously, I'm happy to do that CSX Heritage Unit for Monon if nobody wants to do it. But if both Atlas and Lionel are going to make it, then we'll probably be okay with that. We'll just have to see. So, but I think you can bet on we're going to get those for sure. You want to talk about Star versus Bus? We could spend a minute on that. I was going to talk about that in another session, but so if you think about the way we historically wired a layout, is we took 2 wires and ran underneath the layout, underneath the track, all the way around the loop, right? So at one end, you have a terminal block, electrical block, and you take 2 wires and run them all the way around. I can turn that off. There we go. Run them all the way around the layout and back to the other end and tie them together. And then your transformer, through a TIU, if that's what you're using, would go directly to that block, right? And so the signal would go all the way around the layout. And we call that common bus wiring. That's what we did historically. And so what you would then do is at the track, you would drop 2 wires one from the center rail and one from one of the outside rails. And I always use the rail closest to the edge is where I drop 2 wires. And then those 2 wires connect to the bus, basically. And it could be, you could do it with a terminal block down there, or you could do it with a suitcase connector, or there's lots of ways to connect them together. So common bus wiring. And that's very common. The problem with common bus wiring is when MTH, DCS is running, the signal going out to the engine is going out on the center rail, basically. And the signal coming back from the engine is coming out on the outside rail, coming back on the outside rail. And MTH DCS is two-way communication. So the engine's talking back. That's not true with Legacy and TMCC, right? So, so the problem is with common bus wiring is that I send a signal out to the engine and it may come back on a different path, come back around the rest of the circle. And the packets can get scrambled. And then all of a sudden, MTH starts saying, DCS starts saying, engine not found. I don't know who you're talking to. You're crazy. This engine's not here. It starts giving you all these weird error messages, right? And so we figured out way back when with DCS that if we went to what's called a star wiring pattern, then that guarantees that the signal out and the signal back follow the same path. And so the way star wiring works is I've still got blocks, just like I had in common bus wiring. They're insulated at the center rail. And in the middle of a block, so I've got a section of track that has an insulated center rail on each end. I'm going to drop a pair of wires in the middle, one for ground and one for center rail. And that's going to connect to 2 wires and bring those 2 wires straight back to the terminal block. It doesn't go to anywhere else, just comes straight back. And so they call it star, and maybe it's more like octopus, I don't know. But so you have a center terminal block for that loop of track that has a pair of wires running out to each block. And I guess it looks like a star. And so the advantage of that is when we send a signal to the engine, it'll come back the same path. And that keeps the packets from getting scrambled. And so in the whole engine not found, all those other error messages we see in DCS totally go away. Okay, so that's star wiring. So now that I've gone through all that, so if you have a layout, let's say it's 16 feet by 16 feet, or maybe 16 feet by 20 feet, you can use common bus wiring and run DCS on it and no problem. It'll work fine. It will not work on a big layout, okay? Like the layout, the first public layout we did in Carmel was probably 35 feet by 20, maybe?
Yeah.
And it didn't work at all. I couldn't get anything to run until I went to star wiring. And then once I went to star wiring, everything else took off. So star wiring is, I've got a single point terminal block for each loop of track. It has a transformer coming in one end, and it has single wires going out to each block. That's star wiring. That always works. And common bus is I'm going to take 2 wires, red and black or whatever, and run them under the track all the way around the layout back to the terminal block. And I'm going to drop leads into the common bus. And the common bus always works for Lionel, and will work for MTH unless the layout is big. And then it doesn't work. So Matt says, can I draw that for us? Yeah, I've actually got... thank you for the laugh out loud. Yeah, so maybe I better not draw it. Yeah, I've done a couple drawings like that, but you know, yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, let's see what So Liz, what's your advice on exposing a pretty girl you're dating to the hobby? Well,
Is that really a question?
yeah, it's really a question.
Oh, that's
So
great.
if you, there was a show not that long ago online with some big shot from Match, and they were asking him, what are the 3 things a guy should not do on Match to find the right girl? And one of the 3 things he listed was, tell her you're into model railroading. That's a dead thing, you know. And people come in here and they say, well, you know, does Liz really like trains? No. Liz really likes Mr. Muffin, you know. And that's, you know, thank you very much. Don says, do you use insulated wire? Absolutely. Yeah, we got to use insulated wire. And I would use braided, not solid core. Okay, and you can use, even on a pretty good sized layout, you can use 16 gauge wire is fine. 16K wire braided, and we sell it if you want. We took that, when O Guage Railroading stopped doing that, we took over their supplier, and we've got wire, and you can get wire, and, you know, pretty easily. But 16 gauge, and then the drops, they could be 18 or 20, doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's the wiring. Been to Dr. Fisher's layout. Matt, you've been to Dr. Fisher's layout? Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it? So if you go to Nashville, let me know. He and I are close. And I'll call, and I'll get you an invitation to visit Dr. Jack's layout. If you haven't seen any of it, you can go to YouTube and search for, what's that woman's name that did the video there? What's her name? If you do City of New Orleans on YouTube, it'll come up. So verify to continue. You want to do something there?
Oh,
Let's see.
yeah.
We got it. Oh yeah, we're doing it. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, we've gone a whole hour. Oh my God, I can't believe you people put up with this. So thank you for doing that very much, for joining us. This will be out on Facebook for a while and TikTok for a while. Thank you all for joining us. We really enjoyed it. And we'll go back and take a look at everything. If you've got topics you'd like us to cover, we kind of jumped around a little bit, mostly Lee's fault, I think. He was kind of causing a lot of problems. But if you've got topics you'd like to cover, you can email them to us, support@MrMuffin'sTrains.com, or you can post them on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok, any of our channels, and we'll see them and we'll get ready to do we'll plan our next video. So hey, I'm going to play my music again. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, they don't hear the music on TikTok. But you guys get it.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right, that's all good. Okay. We're still dancing. We're still dancing. Hey, thanks for hanging in with us. We'll see you next time. Take care.